Welcome to Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod, Living the Dream, a show that celebrates ordinary people who do extraordinary things. Hear what motivated them to attain their goals, see which circumstances molded their character and turned them into everyday heroes. Learn more about this show and the hosts for Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod TV and radio on Facebook. Now here are your hosts, the Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod, Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas and Lori Boyle.
Welcome to Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod. I'm Kat Canavas, the Wicked Housewife, and this is Lori Boyle, our other Wicked Housewife. And we have a wicked house husband with us today as our guest. His name is Bob Danzig, and he is absolutely amazing. We love him. We know you're going to also.
So let me tell you a little bit about Bob. First of all, I met him on a whale watching boat out of Barnstable Harbor, and we started talking because he was actually sitting across from Deb O'Brien, who has been on this show, and they started talking, and she came over to me and said, I met the most wonderful man. You have to meet him and you have to get him on your show. And so I went over there I was with Gordon Sullivan, who's a 4-star general, and he and I went over and sat down, had a wonderful conversation with Bob. And he told us about all the books he's written. But the most unusual thing, I think, is about him is that he was an orphan. And he went into the foster care system at the age of 2 and spent time in 5 different foster homes. And then he got a job when he graduated from high school at a newspaper. And 19 years later, he was president of the company. So he's had a wonderful life, and he's shared it by writing all these books that he has and speaking and getting speaking awards, and we just think that you're wonderful.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I consider wonderful an understatement, by the way, but we'll accept what we get.
He's also got a wicked sense of humor. Wicked.
We like that too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to chatting with the two of you.
Wonderful. Good.
So I do notice that you enjoy the use of the word wonderful a lot, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine, because it describes her fingernails, all right? Which are
He
wonderful.
noticed them
Yeah,
right off
yeah.
the bat.
Mine need a little help. They're at the end of their manicure life.
Well, I'll show you something really wonderful. It's right here, his latest book. Is this your latest book?
Yes, it is.
It is. Fresh Start Moments. I love the title. Don't we all look forward to a fresh start? And when we think that we're down and out, we can't get back up, if we focus on a fresh start, it's amazing how it picks us up by our own bootstraps. And that's the military brat in me speaking. But speaking of fresh starts, can you walk us through your kind of like Tears to Triumph childhood? You were sharing a bit of it with us, but I know that it would be inspirational to our audience.
Well, there's always key points in people's lives, some memorable influence on them, and as you mentioned, I was in the foster care system at age 2, and I bounced around for many. I can only remember 5, because you don't start remembering things until you're maybe 7 or 8 years old. I was probably in 15 or 16 different foster homes.
Oh my goodness.
But I remember the 5, and I was never abused, but I was never cared for. The foster care system in those days was kind of an economic thing for families who were struggling. They got paid to take these kids in, so the concern and focus was minimal, all right? So I drifted along, never belonging to anyone. I never was in a school long enough to make friends. I never was in a neighborhood long enough to make friends. So I learned to live by myself and invent my own activities. For example, I would count the cracks in the sidewalks walking from the foster home to school. I would look at the alphabets and the different signs of windows and things like that. So I was cultivating a certain kind of creativity without even knowing it, all right? It was to fill the vacuum of not having any positive influence in my life until I think I may have been 10 or 11 when a new social worker was assigned to my case Her name was Mae Morse, M-A-E. And the very first time she met with me, she reached over, Lori, she took my hand, and she said, I want you never to forget, you are worthwhile. Her words were like a tattoo on my spirit. It was the first time I felt like a person. Before that, I'd always felt like driftwood, just going from place to place, never belonging. And she was my social worker for a year. And every time she met with me during that year, she'd say the same thing at the end of our discussion. Never forget you are worthwhile. In fact, by about the fourth or fifth time she met with me, she would say to shake my hand, she, what am I going to say to you? And I'd say, you are worthwhile. So her having me say that made those words, as I said, a tattoo on my spirit. I felt like a person for the first time, and I never stopped feeling like a person after that. Then what happened was that you skipped over it, but I graduated at 17 because I skipped one grade in school. Not because I was smart, which most people do, but they just put me in the wrong grade.
You just kept going.
I just drifted to school. There I was, 17 years old, and I got a job in a local, they got me a job in a local Montgomery Ward store.
Oh, I remember those.
In the wholesale mattress department. They had these big bins full of mattresses with numbers on them. They had ladders in the bins and catwalked across. And you climb up the ladder, the foreman would call up like a B5, all right? You push that mattress in a box off and come down, lay on a trampoline on wheels. They wheel it out to the customer. So I got that job in May, as I said, and by September it was pretty fast, up the ladder, across the catwalks. One Friday afternoon, I swore that foreman said C8. And I pushed that big king-size mattress off that bin, came down, no trampoline, hit the foreman. And I had my first corporate consequence. He said, get out, you're fired. So there I was, fired from my first job. I went to a teenage dance that night and met a high school buddy. That was Bob Slocum. And he said, what are you doing? I said, I just got fired from Montgomery Ward. He said, don't think it's fired from Montgomery Ward. You just have to get a warm body and show up. And, well, the foreman hit him with a C8. He said, I'm the office boy at the Albany Times-Chain. I'm being promoted to clerk. He said, maybe you come down Monday morning because you consider for my job as the office boy. But he said to me, you know, you really look very young. I think you ought to wear a hat. So I went to the Snappy Men's shop in Albany, New York. I bought a hat. Never had that before. And down I went. Now this is the lowest job in the place. We've got 1,250 employees. This office boy in the circulation department is the lowest job, all right? So there's no urgency to hire this person. But they had a little ad in the paper. There were 9 guys in front of me, all right? And you had a little application form, and all I had was my name, my social security number, and I didn't want to say I just got fired, but that's it. That's all I had on this little paper. Anyway, the little office manager, her name was Margaret Mahoney. She's a bantam little lady with very curly hair. All the other 9 guys are gone. I'm standing there. I've been there about an hour and a half. And she comes up to me. She takes my little piece of paper with my name and my social security number, and she said, I want to ask you a question. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, why are you wearing that hat? I said, well, my friend told me I looked too young. I should get a hat. She said, but you're in this office for an hour and a half. When you're inside, you're supposed to take your hat off. I said, I never had that before. I didn't know what to do. I'm convinced she hired me because I didn't know how to take my hat off. But later I learned that Margaret Mahoney had been a foster parent.
Oh.
And when she found out, she later told me that I came to the foster care system. It incented her to take an interest in me. And I'd say after 5 or 6 months, we were both covering complaint phones on a Saturday morning. Wow. And she said, I want to see you in my office. So I went to her. I was scared to death I could get fired again.
They drop on her head.
And I sat down, and she said to me, I've been the office manager 15 years. She said, I've been observing you. She leaned over her desk. She said, I believe you are full of promise.
Oh, how nice.
That moment, she gave me permission to have ambition.
Mm-hmm.
That moment, I never forgot her words. So between you are worthwhile and you are full of promise, my whole lifeline was spelled out for me to hold on to those, all right? Went in the Navy for 3 years, went to college night for 5 years, and 19 years later, as you said, I was the publisher of that newspaper, and then 7 years later, I was in New York as the president of our company, okay? And I believe that they were in my path for a reason, okay? And it taught me something very significant. You have to leave your life open to what's coming your way. If you're not open, if you're shut down, you don't take a hold of you are worthwhile. You don't take a hold of, I believe you're full of promise, okay? So anyways, those are the major influences. And what I did, though, I learned to eradicate my childhood. I just erased it. And there were consequences of that later on in my life, but I just didn't want to ever have sympathy because I didn't come from a family. So I erased that experience. So would you like a longer introduction to my childhood? Could there be a longer introduction? I don't think so.
I thought that was a really, really good one. But I do have a question for you. As you were going through this, did you ever dream as a young man, before you started to go up the ladder of success, that you would be this successful? Did you ever have an actual dream? Because see, oops, I touched my mic. Sorry guys, everybody probably went, ah, but did you ever actually have a dream?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm not a person that remembers dreams, okay? So I don't know. In fact, I guess I would answer it this way. Ambition to me has always been about what else can I do? Not what can I get, but what can I do next, okay? And I'm a strong believer if you shine where you're potted, there's an aura about you that may be like a dream, all right? That causes people to take things from you that help you develop. I never set out to do these things. They simply occurred because I was in the habit of using my creativity and trying to excel in whatever I did. All right, so I'm not sure that qualifies as a dream, but it certainly was a major factor in my whole career.
Now, when you became president, CEO of the company, were there problems?
It was broken.
It was broken.
Yeah, I ran the most successful Hearst newspaper at the time because we all these big city afternoon, heavily unionized papers. And if I had made $1 in Albany, New York, we would have still been the most successful. They're all losers. They're all losers all over the country, except in San Antonio. We had two winners, San Antonio, Houston, but that was San Antonio and Albany. And I really debated when I was asked to come and be president, do I really want to do this? Number one, they're all over the country, means I got to travel a lot. Number two, I'd be giving up the special privilege of influencing a marketplace, which a publisher could do in profound ways, okay? And number three, I was leaving my family. This was my family. That newspaper was my family, all right? I knew those people, they knew me. So it's office boy, all right? So I'd be living with my family. But then I said to myself, you know, this is a broken company, and perhaps something in this background can help me move that from the ashes of destruction into the possibility of promise. So I went ahead and did that, and it took me a while. But the key things we did was, number one, recruit the best talent we could find. I remember hiring an editor in our Los Angeles paper. I paid him twice my salary.
Really?
I'm the president of the company. Paid him twice my salary. Jim Bellows was his name, because he was an all-star editor. And I felt if we get a guy like Bellows in here, it'll be like an emblem to the whole nation of great journalists. Wow, they've got Bellows. I want to be there. And suddenly we had all these great talents joining that newspaper. There was a rhythm and a hum to it. So I believe that you have to start with talents. The second is that every one of these newspapers operated from day to day. You know, they did all the stuff you got to do, right? The only thing that eluded them was success. But they did all this stuff every day. So as we got the best talent in place, I would go from city to city and say, you know, there's a term for where we are. And that term is corporate welfare. Right? We're
like
feeding off the profits of our magazines and television stations, but we've got to learn how to become strategic enough to move from welfare to promise, all right? And so we began this process, and little by little, we began to thrive. And we became a powerhouse of a company, just a powerhouse. It wasn't me. I was simply the privilege of kind of orchestrating. It's like a great symphony orchestra, okay? The conductor is waving the wand, but all the talents are there in the orchestra. So I may have been waving the wand, but that great talent component, learning to become strategic, that got us there.
You know what I didn't hear you say, and most business schools teach this, you go in and lay people off and cut costs, and hopefully your profits rise due to all the cost cutting you do. I didn't really hear you say that. I heard
well,
you say...
venture capital owners of the companies do that all the time. I guess it depends upon your genesis, all right? My genesis was not business school. My genesis was thriving in the family of a place and knowing the story of the people and evaluating moves. I can give an example of that if you'd like in a minute. Evaluating what can we do that helps preserve these people without becoming paternalistic, all right? So you would not find me sympathetic. I consider that a business cliche. To go in and whack all the people out. The other day, Cisco announced that 5,500 people are losing their jobs, okay? They got 70,000 people. How do you think the other 65,000 people feel today? Huh? Do they feel inspired? Do they feel secure? Do they feel, are we next? So there's consequences. There's consequences to this kind of routine behavior. And there's other ways to go about it. And I don't want to be giving speeches here, but I'd be happy to give you a couple of examples if you're ready for them.
Go ahead. I'm ready.
Well, I'm not. No, of course I am. Yeah, we had a craft called stereotypers. They took the matrix off a printed page, okay, with a print on it. They would put it into a machine called a pony, which bent the page, and hot lead was poured over it, and that lead plate, then semi-cylindrical, became the press plate, all right? These people, we had 38 of these guys. They hated their work. They hated this job, you know, pouring hot lead every day. But the way they manifested their hatred of their work was to hate the company. They were always creating problems, issues. Especially we hired a new foreman from Cleveland. They hung the guy in effigy the first day he walks in, for example. So they're always creating. And then a new process developed that could eliminate the stereotypers, as they were called, altogether. It was a plastic plate made out of film, etc., all right? We knew a year and a half in advance, that's how long it took to manufacture and install the equipment, that we'd be getting rid of the stereotypers. And I said to our team, look, there's no question that there's been nothing but an irritant all this time, okay? But these are 38 people with families and mortgages and college kids and churches they support. I think we could look for a different approach here. Now that if we do the right thing, don't run around the building talking about it, don't give speeches. It'll become an emblem of who we are. So I had aptitude tests given all the stereotypers. What else could they do? We found people with master's degrees working as a stereotyper. They want to be a copy editor, just never got a chance, okay? We found people that wanted to be electricians and this and that. And so we retrained them. And I said to our folks, look, whatever job comes open that they are going to be qualified for, we're going to keep that open for this year and a half. We'll incur some overtime, we'll have a little extra cost, okay? But at the end of the year and a half, they're all going to be absorbed here. They're going to continue to be in our family, okay? And a year and a half later, when the stereotype department shut down, they worked night and day shifts. They're all there for that day shift. And I just walked by to kind of say how much we appreciated what they had done. The whole place burst into cheers. It wasn't about me.
A beautiful story.
It's about doing the right thing. Yeah. You do the right thing. Now, similarly, you know, we went through a very difficult time in the early 80s. You know, the war was going on, the big recession, et cetera. And our top team got together. It's early in the year. We've already submitted our budget for the year. And, you know, business is really, really rough. We're going to have to do something with our cost structure. And they're going around the table, our different groups, and, you know, how many people they're going to take out, this and that. And they came to me and I said, you know, I don't think I want to commit to that. Well, everybody else is, Bob. And I said, yeah, but you know what? We work so hard to build a culture to let creativity and inspiration of the talents we have flourish, that there's a consequence if we do this. That talent is going to be diminished in their security. So I said, I don't know what to do yet, but I know this. Taking a machete out and just cutting heads is short-term thinking. So give me a little time. Darcy said, well, but you can't take forever. Right? You can't take forever. Well, the next day, I flew to a meeting with all the top auto people in Detroit. Sitting next to me was a guy named Rick Wagner from General Motors, okay? And they had just lost their chief of productivity. He got recruited by Volkswagen. They were suing back and forth, a lot of complexity. I'm trying to make conversation. So I said to him, will the loss, this guy's name was Ignacy Lopez, will the loss of this productivity expert diminish your trust? He said, no. He said, matter of fact, I'm in charge of that now. I'm in charge of a whole productivity program. I didn't know what it was, okay? And he said, it's been tremendous. And I said, do you ever have an outside guest? He said, no. He said, no, we just don't do it. You know, our people come together every 2 months. We exchange all these ideas, what we're doing. And I said, well, I'm sorry. I'd love to sit in on something like that. He said, well, no, we don't have outside guests. So I flew to San Antonio the next day. Mm-hmm. I get to San Antonio, pick up the paper, and the lead business story is about Rick Wagner being named the president of General Motors.
Wow.
So I called my assistant, Marge Murphy, in New York City. I said, Marge, have a little QT conversation with Rick Wagner's assistant. Do not ask for his home address, but ask her if she sent $200 worth of flowers to Mrs. Wagner, and you'll have an overnight check to her. And the card will simply say, congratulations on the good news for your Rick, Bob Danzig, Hearst Newspapers, okay? And Marge did that. And we sent the flowers to Rick Wagner's wife. When I got back from San Antonio at the end of the week, I got a call from this assistant in General Motors. She said, Mr. Wagner just left for China. But she said, he told you if you'd like to come to our productivity meeting in 2 weeks, you'd be welcome. I went and sat there for 2 days with one of my key guys, drinking in what they had done for productivity. The science of turnover, the science of replacement, re-examining everything you did, what your turnover, it was a really elaborate thing. But they weren't just chopping people. And I came back and we installed a productivity program in all of our papers all over the country, okay? Mm-hmm. We had productivity councils that we didn't save a lot of money that year, but the next year it was huge.
Really?
We laid no one off. We changed the way we did things. We made a science of people's turnovers. And that sounds like a big lecture on something. It's not.
No, it's
important. The point
important.
is that if this is your family, okay, mm-hmm. these emblematic opportunities come up in the conduct of your business, and sometimes it just can't be done this way. But most times it can be if your determination is, how do I make this the gentlest experience possible, rather than just the most effective cut of costs, all right? Mm-hmm. I apologize for the lecture sign of this, but
no, I thought that was great.
These are on my mind.
Yeah, family is important.
What I'd like to do now is repeat the whole thing.
Well, I do want to ask you to give us a spirit tip. I know that you talk about spirit tips on your website. Do you have one that you can kind of share with our audience that might be helpful to them?
Yes. Why choose mediocrity when excellence fits so much better?
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's a great one.
I love that.
Yeah, we never do. Never.
But there are people who may lean that way. They don't have to. You know, I have 5 children, 3 daughters. I write them at least 3 times a week. I tell them how much they're adored for being good people, okay? Mm-hmm. So that's a way of confirming that I perceive them to be of value. Mm-hmm. People can take the time to acknowledge those that they care for by simply letting them know you're valued. Mm-hmm. Very often that just says, you know, yeah, I love you and I love you. And it's all kind of cheek to cheek and blowing air kisses, but once in a while you really have to make a statement to people that you care for. And I think that's a spirit tip. Mm-hmm. Value those you love and let them know.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I met you, I went to your website after I got home. And there's a quote on your website that I think it just encapsulates who you are and what you've done with your life. I'm going to read it right now.
Okay.
Okay. It says, for Bob, the key to these marks is acknowledging every individual who crosses his path and embracing each opportunity. By spreading encouragement, enhanced spirit, and confidence, he is bringing lasting change to a world searching for these qualities. Absolutely. I think that's absolutely true. And I love your approach to business because, you know, I've worked for different companies when their only approach was, you know, what we call slash and burn. You know, you're just going to go out and you're going to lay people off, and this is costing us, and this is costing us. But they don't think about what investment do I have to make right now so that I can ensure a future for this company and future profitability and things like that. And you're only as good as the people you have. So I think your approach is correct.
I think you have to celebrate people. I think you have to care about the spirit of an organization, all right? The spirit. If we acquired $3 billion worth of business on my watch, and we'd have teams going analyzing this and that, I just walked through the place, getting a sense of the spirit. If the spirit was kind of neutral, I would say this is fabulous. Because if we can ignite that spirit, this good business we're buying can become enormously successful, okay? But you have to have a methodology to that. What I would, everybody can choose their own path. I chose with the same Marge Murphy, my assistant. Any day I was going to be in New York City, Marge sent an email. Before that, she'd just make a call to the assistants around. She'd choose 10 a day. And she'd call those 10. She had this little insider joke. She called me Bobby. She'd say, Bobby's here today. And they knew that by 4 o'clock that day, they'd have back to Marge Murphy the name of someone in their place worth recognizing. One sentence describing what that was, and then their home address and whether they're married or not. Marge would type these up. And I would take that list on the train as I travel from New York City, okay, to my home, and I kept my personal stationery in my briefcase. And I wrote a note to Lori or whoever it was. I wrote a note to you at your home where you were loved. Never to your business, okay? And if you had done something extra, let's say you're in Houston, maybe you'd written a local story that got some regional prize, then I might put an F next to your name, all right? And let's say you won a statewide prize for Houston. I put a T next to your name. I bring all those envelopes in the next day. I'd handwrite the envelopes. A little scrawly, because I'm on the train, you know, going back and forth. And Marge would put the poster, and she'd mail them out. And then she'd look for an F. And where she saw an F, all right, let's say your husband worked for us in Houston, okay? Where's she gonna, she sent flowers to you. And the flowers would say, congratulations, what's your husband's name?
Peter.
Congratulations on the good news for your Peter. Bob Danzig. When Peter got home that night, he said, I got these flowers. What? And you talk about what you had achieved where you were loved, all right? If you saw a T next to your name, all right, then in Peter's case, he would have gotten, if you were the spouse at home and you were the talent with us, he would have gotten a Tiffany money clip, okay? If it was a woman spouse, she got a Tiffany bracelet. Now we had a special insider deal with Tiffany's, okay? So we had to pay full price. But my point is that same cards, everybody. Congratulations, the good news for your Lori, okay? It takes so little to ignite the spirit of a place. You celebrate the people in any way you can, okay? And it just ignites, it's amazingly effective. The impact matters so much. You think, and your audience right now think about a moment in their life where somebody came by and said, that was a great job, I really appreciate it, I'm glad you're here, okay? How do you feel about that, huh? You feel terrific, really. That has nothing to do with standard business.
Sit up straighter.
It really does,
feel
yeah.
good.
So I believe that if you can celebrate the people, you infuse the spirit with a special tone, and a business begins to reach for new excellence. It's amazingly simple, huh?
It is, and that's a big part of leadership, is
So
inspiring other people.
back to your quote. I know I'm interrupting you, but you know, my first book was called The Leader Within You, And the book
Yeah, I like
became
that.
very, very popular, okay? Because I had all this publicity. It's a hokey book. Well, you know, I got 59 newspapers, 41 television stations, magazines, they're all pumping this stuff out. The book became very popular. As a result, people began to call me and ask me to speak about leadership. I was never a speaker. I would go do some Chamber of Commerce thing or something where our businesses were. But I said, gee, this seems like fun. So I've spoken to over 1 million people since that day. I'm a Hall of Fame speaker, 5 a year for 4,000 people or so. Okay? It just became a brand new career. My message was always about this issue. How do you, I would say to whoever I was with, I just want one lit candle in the audience. Just one lit candle. Something I say will light their candle. It's not like it's standing ovations or, no, just one lit candle. It's amazing how often that happens.
It is. It's one person at a time.
Right.
No, you know, you touch one person's heart at a time, and that is the beginning of the journey with so many others. We want to thank you so much for being here today. I can't believe we've run out of time because it seems like we just sat down. But can you quickly tell our audience how they can get in touch with you, get your books?
Okay. Number one, I'm not finished. You're finished, but I'm going to keep on going, okay? It's just so nobody will see it. I have a website, www.bobdanzig.com. And my email address is bdanzig@hearst.com. And I'm now on all the different Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all these places you buy books, okay? I've got 11 books, and I have CD packages and a lot of stuff, okay? A lot of stuff. And it's amazing. In fact, I just got noticed yesterday, a check coming out. I'm amazed that people, they discover these things and buy them. Now, the Lord's been very good to me. I've had a lot of blessings, okay? So I give this money away. I put it into now a family trust for our kids. But before that, my speaking fees were all donated to foster kids in college.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's what I do with all my
That's
money.
that word again.
Yeah. Anyways, we're probably out of time.
We are, and the
Okay.
Lord's been very good to us by bringing Bob Danzig into our life and into yours. So remember, you are all worthwhile, and you are all full of promise. Bob said so, and we believe him. Thank you so much for joining us today on Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod. Again, I'm Kat Canavas, one of the Wicked Housewives, and this is Lori Boyle, and until next time, may all your biggest dreams come true.
Thank you.
Yeah, the two of you are very good.
Thank you for joining Lori Boyle and Kathleen "Kat" O'Keefe Canavas on Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod. Don't forget to like us on Facebook for our show updates, and join us next time when we showcase more everyday heroes.